Today, we're extremely excited to be speaking with Arum. And Arum is a person, he's really just a force for good, a guy who's been involved with Seja for about 3 years now. And his goal, based on his lived experience, is to open up opportunities for young Black people to get involved with the sport of tennis. So, Arum, it's great to have you. We really appreciate your time. Really excited to hear a little bit more about your work and your journey, and how you're using tennis to change lives and really how it changed your life. I think that this is a special connection. I think we've been working together for 2 or 3 years. I don't know. Time goes by quickly, but
Yeah, it does.
mm, tennis always it holds a special place in our heart too because, I mean, that's how George started the organization based in tennis, like, just going out to Rio because he believed in tennis and its power to change lives, and
Yeah.
so, that connection is special.
Yeah, I mean, and I've been over my story before, but obviously, just to recap on it, my connection to tennis was that I was a tennis coach in Southwest London and just realized what a force it was for young people and a force in their lives, and wanted to take that skill out to Brazil. And then obviously the organization was founded off the back of the fact that I was sort of this West white gringo sort of offering these ideals and values which were my own to children that I really had no understanding of and didn't share the reality with. And so Seja became a platform off the back of that, a place for local change makers like yourself, Aram, who are born and bred in the community, who want to provide impact in the community, want to change lives, a space for them. Seja became, and yeah, so I mean, the other thing I just really wanted to quickly I shout out is that I have conjunctivitis, and in case you didn't realize already, that I've got it in my left eye. Otherwise, Dylan's been calling it pink eye all day, but I prefer the term conjunctivitis. Anyway, I thought I'd just shout that out and let everyone know.
All good. No, not to worry.
Yeah, I was trying to convince him to put sunglasses on, but he
That
was thinking that'd be even a weirder vibe. Yeah, I mean,
that is a it's
that's
a weird
legit.
vibe.
No, it looks quite cool. I think it looks all right.
Awesome.
I think
Okay, well,
Um,
I'll ride with the sunglasses then.
Anyways, Aaron, getting to you, I think that we just wanted to start kind of at the beginning, and if you could tell us a little bit about your journey, how does a young Black kid from South London even pick up tennis? I think that tennis already, even in today's world, there's barriers to access. It's an expensive sport, finding courts, finding time, finding lessons, and so I'm sure that was even harder growing up when you did 15, 20 years ago. So, if you could talk a little bit about those experiences and how they shaped your vision and what you're doing now.
Yeah, sure. So I guess essentially I started playing tennis at the age of 9 at a local park tennis court in Southeast London, in Camberwell. Now, I think fortunately for me, the venue that I was playing at and the club, it was very diverse because the area within Southeast London and Camberwell was also very diverse. So there was people that looked like me, which I could obviously relate to, and that was something that sort of kept me in the sport because it was like I was part of a family. Young children, similar backgrounds, similar cultures, similar visions and ideas. So that was really nice. But now I guess the difference was when I first started playing tennis, my parents obviously couldn't afford, regular tennis training. So I was only playing once a week on a Saturday. And I think that was the sort of difference between children that were taking their tennis more seriously because they could afford, regular tennis training. And as one of the barriers that we faced, coming from an underprivileged background where parents just didn't have the funds to be able to afford the cost of tennis training. But that didn't stop us. We used to play as much as we could, and it was one of those things. Whenever there was a court available, we would try and sneak on as much as we can. And the tennis club was just a family vibe. We practically lived there on the weekends, and I was fortunate because the tennis club was only 2 minutes away from home as well. So I guess I didn't have to face the barrier of accessibility and locality. So that was really helpful.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was a great sort of introduction. And I would say it wasn't until I got slightly older, maybe sort of now 13, 14, going on 15, when I started taking it more seriously and sort of competing outside of the tennis club as opposed to doing internal competitions. When I saw that tennis was completely different, it no longer looked like, a diverse community where I was amongst people that, looks like myself. And people would often look at us as, we didn't belong there. And it was just sort of something that we weren't used to. And at the same time, we could also see that the level of the players that we were coming up against were different, and they had a lot more hours that they were able to train, better facilities, being able to train over roofs, which allowed them to train more consistently. These were things that we didn't, we weren't fortunate enough just because parents couldn't afford those costs. So I guess those were sort of the initial things that I saw for the game.
What were you seeking out when you found the tennis courts? Did you just like bump into it one day? Did somebody invite you? Like what was that even your first contact? Because I think so many young people go for football or they go for a more common sport. So what drew you to the tennis court?
Yeah.
Is there like a specific memory?
Yeah, so I followed just sort of in the footsteps of my older brother. He started playing
Okay.
tennis first, and then it was kind of me next. But I've always been a sporty child growing up. That's kind of been my way through life. I think sports has just been my thing. So I was always playing other sports around that, football, table tennis, badminton. I played so many other sports as well. And I think I stuck with the tennis purely because playing an individual sport, even though we was also doing it in group lessons, that fulfillment of being able to take control of, your own actions when you're on the court. And if you make a mistake, it's down to you to have to correct it, and seeing the change. I think that's something that I really found very valuable, sort of compared to when I played team sports back in school or team sports outside of school. Because as you know, when you're playing in a team, everybody has to work together to achieve a common goal, right? And sometimes that doesn't always happen. It could be when you're playing football and there's always that one person that just likes to hold on to the ball for too long when you're in a better passing position, and then you become isolated and it's no longer enjoyable. So I think tennis was just my thing because I was always in control. I always had time. I was always able to dictate play and, decide how I wanted to navigate through this pathway. And then doing it amongst friends, like I said, and family members they became who looked at myself, then just yeah, it just took it to another level.
You thinking and talking about your brother, I'm gonna take this off. I can't take myself seriously with these glasses. I'm embracing the pink eye, and you're all gonna embrace it too. Hearing you talk about your brother actually made me think about my brother. And
Yeah.
actually, Arum and I met initially because Arum was teaching Sam some much needed teaching as well, because Sam is not an excellent tennis player. Although I'm sure Arum would say differently. Is he still playing, your brother?
No, they stopped playing.
Okay.
Yeah, they stopped playing. Yeah. My younger brother does play here and there, but my older brother stopped playing. Yeah.
There you go.
I think that the next thing I was curious about was that, I mean, tennis has obviously had a huge impact on your life. You talked a little bit about the turning point from when you were 9 years old and starting, 15 and 16 playing more seriously. But was there a moment like through your journey where you realized that tennis was more than a sport? Was there a point in your journey where you realized that like tennis could be more of a lifestyle for me and provide something for my future? Or is that something that just like you happen now and you're reflecting back on your journey about the impact of it?
Yeah, no, absolutely. It was literally at that age of 15, because that's when I then started sort of volunteering my time at my local tennis club to support, all the work that they gave to us and, the free opportunities that we had. So I was sort of acting as a youth leader, working with the children and young people on the tennis program, assisting in holiday camps, after school, sessions on the weekends, just giving back to the community because they did the same for us. And I think that's when I realized that I had the passion to work with children and young people, something that I didn't think I had before, because I looked at it as the reaction that these children had when we were just giving them, support and helping them, whether it's games or just showing them, how to hit a forehand. It was amazing. And I was like, I'm still young myself, and these guys are so excited. I just couldn't believe it. Like they don't really look at me like I'm a figure that's making an impact in their life. That was really fulfilling. So I think that was something that just started my journey, and then from there it took over.
Yeah.
I know there are probably loads of children, Aaron, but is there one in particular that you're like the progression or you've taken to a point that's been your sort of, I don't know, proudest moment or something that you're happy to achieve?
Yeah, so there's one young girl that I currently train at the moment. She's called Nazra. I train her at the Butterfly Tennis Club basically every day. She's a young girl that started on our children's bursary program at the age of 5. Now, our bursary program is where we provide free tennis for children and young people from underprivileged backgrounds, those where the parents struggle to afford the cost of the regular training. And essentially, we provide that free tennis after school, on weekends, and during the holiday camps. So Nazra and her mum Salam were eligible for the bursary program when they first started, and she would come down for the after school sessions. And it was also around the time when I first got the role at the Butterfly Tennis Club, so it was perfect seeing her growth. And she would be there every single day, really enthusiastic, great energy, a great athlete. And I guess out of all the kids, she was probably the one that stood out for me the most, because after the sessions were done, she would stay on the tennis court and just keep hitting and running around. And those are the signs that you see as a coach that a player loves the sport. Because if they're still willing to stay on the court when everybody else has gone home and they don't want to leave, it means something to them. And I was just monitoring this for about a year and a half, just constantly watching. And eventually I then sat down with the mum and I said, I think your daughter's extremely talented and she's special. What would you think about, going down a pathway towards professional tennis? Because something that I've been involved in for around sort of 10 years now is developing myself to become a high performance coach, developing young juniors that want to become professional tennis players. I have a mentor who's called Barry. I think, George, you've met him before, and he's mentored me to go through that pathway. And together we're working with, young black talented players within Southeast London and anywhere to try and help them achieve their goals. Nazra being one of them. And now, fast forward to today, Nazra's 9, going to be turning 10 end of the year. We've been training on average 10 hours a day. Sorry, 10 hours a week. Apologies, 10 hours a week.
10 hours
really,
a day is quite the training
10 hours
regimen
a day would
there.
be crazy. 10 hours a week, basically every day after school, Monday to Friday, generally 2 hours. We train early morning, 6 o'clock before she goes to school, to try and obviously maximize the hours and just improve her development. The girl absolutely loves it. She comes on court with a smile on her face every single day, never complains, is never tired. Like, I can't tell you how wonderful she is. And yeah, she's someone that hopefully she can reach the heights and become a Grand Slam champion.
So everybody knows, is that still sort of part of the bursary? Like,
the bursary stuff only covers the children's sessions, so the group classes. So the one-on-one sessions that I'm doing with Nazra, that's completely voluntary. That's me giving my time for free to help this young girl. And I chose to do that because I know what support is like, and I know what needing help is like, because the club did it for me. Barry's done it for me as a mentor, supporting me through my journey, and so many other people through my pathway. So this is my way of giving back to the next generation and hopefully, helping others.
George and I always talk about how local leaders are best positioned to drive change from the inside out. And if you could touch on that, like why your journey makes you uniquely positioned to lead that type of work.
Yeah, sure. So the Project AA is essentially a concept that I've created where the goal is essentially to accomplish anything. That's what it stands for. So accomplish anything, and then also Arum Akom. And it's sort of using my personal story and my experience to show children, young people, and just anybody that I work with in general that you can accomplish anything in life. If you put your mind into what you're doing, if you're dedicated, if you work extremely hard, you set goals, all these things, it's possible to achieve your goals. And I believe that through my journey and with the experience that I've gained and the understandings that I've gained, it's given me the confidence to be able to pass on this knowledge to other people, which is why I feel that I'm best suited to be able to do this type of job. And seeing it to believe it, to me, is a phrase that I always use and try to instill into people, because when you've been there, you actually understand what that's like, because you can feel it and you know how things can then change. And that's ultimately what I'm trying to do. I want these children, young people, to not have to go through the experiences that I've been through, or if they do go through the experience that I've been through, how can we navigate them so that everything is seen as a positive? I always try to make sure wherever there's a negative, we try to turn it into a positive, because we have to keep motivating and inspire the next generation. Yeah.
And that's just to people in the area who can't afford tennis but want to play.
Yeah, exactly. So I think what the club done, which was really good, is it was a finding a balance between those that could pay and those that couldn't pay, because the club wanted to show that obviously tennis is diverse and inclusive and it's for everyone, but then to also integrate those two sort of categories to make people aware that we're not trying to segregate and say, oh, it's just for you, and bring everybody together. So there'll be parents that can afford the sessions and they will pay for those after school sessions and on the weekends. And then there's going to be a number of parents that can't afford the sessions, and that's where they'll get the free support. It could generally be a child that might get free school meals at their school. That's sort of an indicator that we use to say, okay, maybe they need a little bit more support on the tennis program.
Yeah.
How can we help you? And things like that.
Yeah. Cool. I mean, do you have anything to add to that, George?
Oh, I just wanted to say that it's become, like I've said this on the podcast before, and that it becomes a custom when you're talking about your impact, because you've spoken about it so much before. It's just become something that's just part of your routine in your life. And I just wanted to recognize and just take a moment to actually say how incredible that is, man. And like to be able to take Nazra on a journey like that and give her all that opportunity and where she is now as a result. It's really inspiring, mate. I really think that I just wanted to remind you of that.
Yeah.
Can I add to that as well?
Of
I
course.
think what I wanted to mention is when I met Sam, it was actually one of the day when he came on court, he actually saw the children's, I think the bursary program going on. So he's come on court and he's seen all the kids, I think just finishing their lesson before I was about to teach him. And he then asked me and he said, what is this? And I then told him what the bursary program is about and told him about the kids and the differentiation. And I think to him, he couldn't believe it because it was just something that stood out for him so much. And that's when he mentioned about yourself and mentioned mentioned that there may be a way that we could work together and find support and see what we could do to grow this program. So he as well obviously saw that there was something different within what the club was doing and what we had to offer, hence why he put us in contact, and here we are today. So we have to big up Sam for that, because it was a great introduction, and hopefully, yeah, it's the future.
Shout out Sam. Shout
Yeah.
out Sam. He's also just had a baby, mate. So
Wow.
he's full swing dad mode. I had a
Wow.
kid a year ago, so I'm
Yeah.
a proud uncle to his kid.
Wow.
But yeah, I mean,
Congrats,
thanks Sam for recognizing that moment. And yeah, and again, I'm just gonna give you as much credit as possible. to inspire Sam, he's my brother, so I know it takes something, right?
Okay.
You are that something, and so yeah, all credit to you, brother.
Thank you. Appreciated. Thank you very much.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about Black Tennis Mentors and like this next phase of your journey. In our conversations in the past, you've talked a lot about mentorship and the importance of the mentors in your life, and you offering mentorship, individual mentorship to players. And I guess I just wanted to hear a little bit about mentorship, like why you think it's so important, why it's important for young people to have mentors, to have examples in the communities. And I think a lot. I also want to hear what you're doing with Black Tennis Mentors, because it's a really cool program, and being able to kind of like inspire people through sport, but also inspire them to start their own initiatives, I think is really cool.
Yeah. So I guess the Black Tennis Mentors, it's a network platform. It does so many different things. Like, we've just got a spider web of things going everywhere. But essentially, it's like using people with lived experiences who have gone through a journey to help inspire the next generation of what we regard as tennis enthusiasts, and particularly Black tennis enthusiasts within the community, to then help them grow in whichever discipline they want to. So it could be using my personal experiences as a coach to help then get the next generation of coaches in. And for example, something that we're doing at the Black Tennis Mentors with another organization is delivering a bespoke LTA Level 1 coaching course. So we've managed to get our community, who are coming to our community tennis sessions, onto a course, a discounted course as well, which helps save costs and break down those financial barriers. And that's then going to start, the journey of the next generation of coaches, where we can make, show that tennis can be diverse and inclusive. Because if you look at the current landscape of tennis coaches, generally speaking, it's predominantly white male coaches. So we're trying to show that, this is something that we can break down. Getting more females into the game as well is something that we're really trying to do. My business partner, B, she has created an event space called Back It. And that is a sort of a social tennis club, which is trying to get more people to learn how to play the game, but in completely fun and, vibe environments. We have music, we have food, just literally everything. And, she's using her experiences as a player, and then also her business skills to try and bring people together. And then hopefully people will go through a journey as well. And so she's inspiring so many more females to play as a female with someone that's been through the journey. And we just go through everywhere. There's volunteers that we work with. There's players that want to also then support players as well and, develop their game. So it's literally like a spider web of someone helping someone, and just going.
Is there any specific examples that you can give us about the impact that program has had? If any of those spider web specific standout stories?
Yeah, 100%. So the sessions that we first started with at Finsbury Park Tennis Courts, that was our first sort of community collaboration session that we did with an organization called Access to Sport, a really great organization instilled on trying to create diverse and inclusive opportunities for those, from underprivileged backgrounds. And we started collaborating with them, doing sessions every Wednesday at Finsbury Park, split by ability, and just being able to get people on a tennis court and show them the basic skills that we have in the game. Like, it's incredible. I went to a session last night. We had 20 people turn up across 4 courts, and they didn't want to leave the court. It was the most fun session you could ever think of. Especially Wimbledon is on right now, so everybody's in Wimbledon spirits, just really enjoying the tennis, wearing the nice all white gears. It was amazing, and that's been going on since last year, about April last year, and we've been consistent every single week. Throughout the winter, we didn't have any sessions cancelled. People are still coming out in their jackets and their hoods, really dedicated to keep playing.
No, it's just so cool to see how the projects have evolved and developed, from offering the bursary programs to Project AA, to realizing the power of like all these networks and bringing people together, like
Yeah.
different people who have had their life impacted positively by tennis in different ways, and bringing that force together and letting each one of those people do what they do best. Like, I see that you're such a
Yeah.
connector of people through tennis, and it's really inspiring to see how that grows, and just, impacts, like, helping young people have access to tennis, when impacting the community at different levels, and breaking down these barriers. It's really cool to see that develop.
Yeah, that was always my goal, with everything you just mentioned. That was always the goal with the Black Tennis Mentors. It was going, I'd built a platform for myself that had been doing really well. I'd been gaining so many opportunities from different people, yourself, organizations, from brands, the LTA, you name it, to just create exposure for myself and get
Yeah.
my work out there. And it got to a stage where so many people would ask me, they would send me direct messages or they'll see me in person, Arum, how did you get that opportunity to do that, shoot with Fila or with Head, or how can I get into this space? What is it that you're doing? And I was like, this is really powerful, but at the same time, I can't be the only one out there that has great work that they're doing, that it needs
Yeah.
to be spotlighted. Where can we find more people that are doing great things? And then hopefully they can use their stories to push and put other people. So essentially it came off that of, my personal story, but then also my achievements. Can we get more people in that same spotlight to then hopefully push their work out, and then everybody helps everyone.
I mean, just community, that's like
That's
grassroots
it.
community-based impact. That's like the DNA of what we believe in right
Yeah,
there. It's so
absolutely.
inspiring. So I guess I just had a couple more questions for you. One of them, I guess, is taking it full circle here. I mean, we're working in the social space. Both of us obviously are. The three of us are, and I think systemic change is something that's obviously very hard and it's slow. Maybe using tennis as a metaphor, do you see things that are changing, or opportunity or access from like when you were growing up to when kids are growing up now?
Yeah, 100%. I think I'll start off with Wimbledon and just seeing, more people of color going to Wimbledon. I was there yesterday, and that was a great experience to just see that it's starting to become more diverse and inclusive. And tennis is seen as a cool sport. People are really enjoying it. And even if it's people that are not necessarily into tennis, just going for that day out is really cool, and people are really enjoying that. So I think that's really nice. You get a flavor of, people that just love the sport, and then just people that wanna experience the sport. Particularly through the Black Tennis Mentors, one of our coaches took some of the players to Wimbledon a couple of days ago, and these are people that have never been to Wimbledon before, but they were so intrigued to find out about tennis and ask about how does the scoring work, who is this player, how do they play, what's their game style, why is it they hit that type of shot, oh, I noticed that that player's got a single-handed backhand but the other person's got a double-handed backhand. And that was incredible because we're now helping people learn about a sport that they probably would never have done if they didn't have those opportunities to be with us, to go through that pathway. So things like that are just extremely cool.
Yeah.
And sorry, who are those people? So who are the people that went to Wimbledon yesterday? Who did you take there?
So it was Coach Junior. So he was one of the coaches at the Black Tennis Mentors. I grew up with Coach Junior at Burgess Park. He's extremely a great friend, incredible coach, and he just rounded up a team of the players that we train in these community sessions that we do in the evenings. There was about 6 or 7 of them, and they all just went. But what they did, which was really cool, is they did the queuing. So getting to Wimbledon at the grounds at like 5 in the morning, when people are also camping overnight, and queuing to then get into the grounds around sort of 11, 12 o'clock, and then just spending the day there. So it was also a great opportunity for them to build more relationships with each other and take it beyond tennis and get to know one another. Something that we're also trying to build is that social connection. The event space that B has created through Backit, it goes beyond tennis, because following the sessions we then go get food, and people are then talking about life. And one of the girls that comes to the session, she has then created her own social spaces where we go and then play games and other events. So that's all come through the tennis, and that's now it's branching outside of the tennis. So much is going on, and yeah, it's just bringing people together ultimately.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, you're incredible at building community, and like tennis is at the center of it. But just hearing those stories about how it goes further, and like creating the spaces for conversations, creating the spaces for connections, and inspiring people to do their own things, I think is so cool. And when somebody sees somebody doing something like kind of like what you were saying, like I can't be the only one doing this. So if somebody sees you doing it and they're inspired by you to do something that they believe in, and who really knows what the ripple effects are going to be down the line of people
Yeah.
who are involved in your space.
Yeah, yeah. And it's
Um,
also one of those, it's like, even if you are, it's how can you help others do it themselves? There was a young girl that came to the Butterfly Tennis Club. She used to go to one of the local secondary schools that we worked with. So I used to coach her through the bursary program on one of the sessions during the week. I hadn't seen her for about a year because she'd been doing exams, and then she came to one of our Black Tennis Mentor sessions the other day, and then she she told me that she set up her own female community tennis group in her local area. And like that was so, I was so happy to hear that because, you know, she first got involved in tennis at the Butterfly Tennis Club, never picked up a racket before. It's now inspired her friends to get involved in the sport and they're playing. And then she's asking me, oh, would you guys be able to come down and teach us because we want to get some coaching? Because we realize that if we're going to have fun and do it properly, then we need to improve our skills, you know. And then that gives me the opportunity to now say to the mentors, coaches, this is an opportunity for you now to go and work with this group. So it's also giving them work so that they can go and then create, you know, create their own stories. But that's, everybody's helping everyone.
So that's so cool. It must feel just so rewarding to
It's amazing.
not even something that you were trying to do. It just happened naturally. And I think that's when you know you have something that's really powerful is you're organically building something that people are inspired by without you kind of having to force it on them. And it just like happens. And you don't even think about that person. And they maybe just had one session with you, but that one session just changed their whole outlook on life. And they went home and started a tennis program themselves. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Yeah, George.
Yeah, I was just I wanted to come sort of full circle as well, because, you know, we often talk about how change makers, or most, if not all of the change makers that we worked with, are turning something that was previously negative into a force for good, right? And you talk about sort of, you know, the young people that you're working with, you're not wanting them to have the same experiences that you had. You're wanting to create better opportunities. I'm wondering if we can talk, if you're happy to, a bit about what does that look like right from the beginning? Like, what is, you know, what was the hardship? What was that bit at the beginning that just turned into this massive force for good?
Yeah, no, I think sort of the two main things that stood out for me when I first got into coaching was the impact of obviously, you know, a young black male in a sport that was, you know, predominantly male dominated, white male dominated, but then also being a young black boy. And one thing that I did have was confidence. I feel like that helped me sort of get up the ranks a little bit early. But then in saying that, it also sort of impacted me because I then started coaching adults really early on. And when you're working with adults, you have to know your stuff because one, they're paying for the sessions, you know, they have a very good understanding of what the sport should look like because they either watch it or, whereas when you're coaching kids, they're still learning because they're still young. So as long as they're mainly having fun, that's kind of what you just need to bring to the table. So I think when I was working with adults, it was that sort of uncertainty that you would always be able to do a good job. And, you know, sometimes when things didn't always go well, you would question, you know, what was the reason for it? Is it because I was young? Was it because of my color? And I didn't know at the time, but like I said, I never tried to use anything as a negative. If anything, I tried to use it as a positive and it's inspire me. You know, I remember there was a time I used to work for an organization in Essex, at the Connaught Tennis Club. And I remember rocking on tennis court with some young juniors, probably between the age of like 12 and 16. And on the court next to me, there was, you know, four white males playing doubles. Probably in the age of sort of 50 to 70. And for some reason, when we came on court, they just used to laugh at us and they just used to like, you know, see us as weird. And I didn't used to understand why. I just kind of used to keep my head in the zone and always focus on what I was doing. But it always used to happen on a regular basis. And I remember speaking to one of the people that worked at the tennis club and they just said, Arum, you know, don't even bother, you know, you're too mature for this, you know, you're on the right path, you know, it doesn't matter, don't let anything affect you. And I think something like that really helped me because as much as it was not nice feeling like you shouldn't belong somewhere, it was also good to just have people constantly say, you know, you've got a bigger mindset than this, you know, think of the bigger picture. And that's something that I've always tried to do and not allow, you know, any, you know, internal factors to impact me.
That's really powerful, man. Thank you for sharing that with us.
Sure.
Yeah, so I guess just to finish it, if listeners could take one message away from today's conversation, from your story, what would that be? And also, where can people find you? Where can they support your mission, your work, and get involved with what you're doing?
Yes, I think if there's one thing that I would say, it would be to, if you've got a goal or a dream, just start it. You know, whatever you envision in life, whatever your mission is, your vision, whatever you want to bring to the table, just start it because you have to get yourself out there and you have to start somewhere. And I think once you go through that phase, then things become easier. I remember sitting down, writing business plans, making notes, doing so much research about what the Black Tennis Mentors could look like. But you just have to start. And then actually everything gets easier because then people see what you're doing, people give you advice, people can help, you can have conversations. Especially with social media today, there's so much knowledge and information that you can take from it, insights and conversations. That's all really powerful. And then I guess, yeah, people can find myself personally on Instagram. It's Project AA Tennis, all one word. And then for the business side, Black Tennis Mentors UK, Instagram, Black Tennis Mentors UK, TikTok, blacktennismentorsuk.com website, and yeah, everything Black Tennis Mentors. So yeah.
Yeah. Jake?
Just so much of Seizure is about getting people to back individuals. So much of the charity sector has become about sort of shiny PDFs. That's why we called this Not Another
Yeah.
Impact Report. It's because we want givers to support people like you, and back stories of change.
Yeah, I guess just last thing is get my jumper in the mail. I'll send you an
Absolutely.
address.
Absolutely.
But I want the one with a hood. That's my
The
house.
hoodie one, the tracksuit.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we
the
can sort that.
tracksuit's
Yeah, the
my house.
tracksuit. Yeah, don't worry,
Yeah,
I've got
yeah.
you. I got you.
That's fun.
Yeah. Anyways, I really appreciate it. That was awesome to hear more about your work. When do you have another session coming on, like an open session that we can just stop by?
In about 4 hours. So if you're free in 4 hours, yeah, you can come down. That's going to be an intense one. Intermediate, advanced players.
Arum, you're doing such awesome work, man. People need to get involved with you. People need to hear your story. And like, there are change makers on the ground in every community that are doing it for all the right reasons. And you're that person.
Thank you so much, guys. Really appreciate this, honestly. Truly appreciate it.
Cheers. All right. Well,
Thanks,
see you,
guys.
man. It was great talking.
Great
See
talking
ya.
to you too. Thanks a
Bye.
lot. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.